10 intriguing pieces of evidence for Bible stories. Numerous individuals figure the accounts in the Bible couldn't in any way, shape or form be valid. In any case, whether from archaeological finds or physical science understudies reproducing Noah's Ark, we're hoarding more logical proof each year. Obviously, it's imperative to take note of that the Bible isn't a set of experiences book, nor is it expected to be one. As a book of strict guidance, the Bible is loaded up with stories intended to instruct. In any case, in the same way as other a decent story or legend, these accounts seem to have some premise truth be told. 10. The physics of the Ark. In 2014, 4 material science understudies from the University of Leicester tried the directions given in the book of Genesis for building Noah's Ark. They needed to check whether the 300-cubit long, 50-cubit wide, 30-cubit high ark would really drift. A cubit is the length from the tip of an individual's center finger to their elbow, which the understudies normalized at around 48 centimeters, 19 in. That implies the actual ark would have been around 145 meters, 476 feet, long, 24 meters, 79 feet wide, and 14 meters, 46 feet high. The measurements resembled those of a little load ship. The Bible says that the ark was made out of gopher wood, yet no one understands what that is any longer. A typical speculation is some kind of cypress, so the understudies chose to utilize that for their computations. At the point when unfilled, a cypress ark would weigh roughly 1.2 million kilograms, 2.6 million pounds. Next, the understudies needed to decide how much weight the ark could convey without sinking. They realized that the thickness of the ark couldn't be more noteworthy than the water. Otherwise, the boat would sink. So expecting the vessel was formed like a container, the most extreme weight it could hold without sinking was just about 51 million kilograms, 117 million pounds. That is a similar load as generally 2.1 million sheep. So could the ark have conveyed 2 of every creature? There are upwards of 8 million unmistakable species out there today, yet the dominant part could endure a flood without being brought on board the ark. Moreover, scriptural researchers note that Genesis alludes to 2 of each made kind, which likely alludes to fewer creatures than 2 of each particular species. Expecting all amphibian life remained in the ocean, then the understudies gauge that as not many as 35,000 sets of creatures should be taken on board, which the ark would have been effectively prepared to do. To decrease the space required inside the ark, infants or youthful examples of colossal creatures like elephants might have been utilized. And how did Noah get every one of these creatures in any case? A few Christians hold that Noah fabricated the ark on strategic position and God basically had the greater part of the creatures relocate there for security before the flood. 9. The power of Jezebel. Jezebel, the most underhanded lady in the Bible, is referenced in different entries, frequently in the books of Kings. In the 10th century BC, she wedded King Ahab of Israel, despite the fact that she was a Phoenician who revered the divinity Baal. As indicated by the Bible, Queen Jezebel needed to change the Israelites over to her religion, and she was able to kill the Jewish prophets to do it. In one section, Jezebel fashioned Ahab's seal on reports to convince the Israelites to acknowledge her religion and forsake their own. This didn't go down well and she was eventually tossed out of a window to be eaten by canines. Yet, antiquarians have since quite a while ago contemplated whether Queen Jezebel had impact autonomous of Ahab's position. In other words, did she truly have the ability to be just about as terrible as she's introduced in the Bible? The answer may lie with a stone seal found in Israel in 1964. The seal's iconography incorporates a twofold cobra, a Horus bird of prey, and a winged sunplate, which Old Testament researcher Marjo Korpel deciphers to propose an association with eminence. What's more, a lotus and a sphinx with a female head and crown infer that the seal was utilized by a sovereign. In the event that the seal had a place with Jezebel, it would infer she had significant political force of her own. But archaeologists at first experienced difficulty interfacing the seal explicitly to Queen Jezebel. The engraved letters on the stone were confounding. Her name seemed, by all accounts, to be incorrectly spelled. In any case, when Korpel contrasted the seal with others of that time, she understood that an upper edge was missing, which most likely held the 2 missing letters that were expected to spell Jezebel's name effectively in Old Hebrew. So case shut? All things considered, not exactly. First of all, the seal wasn't really found by archaeologists, however basically turned up on the Israeli collectibles market. This isn't really extraordinary, only 10% of antiquated Jewish seals were found in logical unearthings, however it confuses distinguishing its beginnings. Korpel's work has likewise been tested by specialists like Christopher Rolston, who noticed that the missing part is adequately enormous to recommend at any rate 5 missing letters, rather than the 2 Korpel proposes might have illuminated, Jezebel. Since the root, ZBL, was very basic in antiquated Semitic dialects, the missing letters could make quite a few unique names or words. Rolston likewise contends that the seal contains no title or family name, which may be normal from an imperial seal. Eventually, we'll likely never know the beginning of the seal without a doubt, in spite of the fact that we can at any rate say that it had a place with an extremely incredible woman. 8. The Jewish high priest Caiaphas. Showing up in the New Testament books of John, Matthew, Luke, and Acts, Caiaphas was the devout minister of Israel who directed Jesus' preliminary prior to conveying him to Roman lead representative Pontius Pilate for execution. We've effectively covered the Pilate stone, actual proof that Pontius Pilate really existed. In 1990, laborers augmenting a street in Jerusalem coincidentally found an antiquated internment cavern containing 12 ossuaries, limestone boxes containing the bones of the dead. One especially fancy ossuary was engraved, Joseph, child of Caiaphas. That name squares intimately with the record of the primary century Jewish history specialist Flavius Josephus, who alluded to Caiaphas as Joseph, who was called Caiaphas of the Great Brotherhood. The extravagantly designed ossuary contained the bones of a 60-year elderly person, which was around Caiaphas' age when he kicked the bucket. Archaeologists likewise saw that the composition on the ossuaries and the cavern divider was the sort of language utilized by graveyard laborers in the primary century. One of the ossuaries contained an AD 43 bronze coin, which is further proof that the ossuaries were set in the cavern during the primary century. That said, the discovery isn't without discussion. Doubtful archaeologists have noticed that the burial chamber itself isn't pretty much as extravagant as you'd expect for the internment spot of a consecrated minister. And keeping in mind that other well-off Jews of the time had their ossuaries gently recorded, the composition on the Caiaphas ossuary seems to have been roughly scratched with a nail. Furthermore, a few language specialists have contended that the Hebrew name on the burial chamber needs more syllables to be the beginning of the Greek, Caiaphas, and would really have sounded more like Kapha. Others have excused this, noticing that the Greeks had no issue adding additional syllables to confounding unfamiliar names. The ossuary is currently in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, albeit the bones were reburied on the Mount of Olives. In 2008, another ossuary was found in Israel and recognized as having a place with Caiaphas' girl. The ossuary had been moved by cheats from its unique area, however archaeologists as of now trust it's authentic. The ossuary is engraved with the words, Miriam girl of Yeshua child of Caiaphas. Ministers, of, Maaziah from Beth Imri. 7. The Siloam Pool. The Book of John recounts the tale of Jesus re-establishing sight to a visually impaired man by putting dirt on his eyes, then having him wash it off with water from the Siloam Pool. The pool was a significant supply in Jerusalem during the Old Testament yet was obliterated by intruders a few centuries before Jesus was conceived. The pool was later modified on a few events, however there were no other notices of a form of the pool in the principal century. Researchers have said that there wasn't a pool of Siloam and that John was utilizing a strict vanity to represent a point. New Testament researcher James H. Charlesworth told the Los Angeles Times, "Presently we have discovered the pool of Siloam, precisely where John said it was. John's Gospel is currently demonstrated to be grounded in history." In 2004, laborers endeavoring to fix a harmed sewer line found 2 stages prompting the pool. Archaeologists immediately dominated and exhumed the actual pool, which was a trapezoid around 69 meters, 225 feet, long. They were additionally lucky to discover coins and earthenware dating the pool to around the hour of Jesus. Specifically, 4 Alexander Jannaeus coins were covered in the mortar underneath the stone veneer of the pool's means. Jannaeus governed Jerusalem from 103 BC to 76 BC, implying that the pool was constructed no sooner than that time. In an edge of the pool, archaeologists found approximately 12 additional coins covered in sediment. These coins were dated from AD 66 to AD 70. demonstrating that the pool was at any rate in part filled in by then. Together, the two gatherings of coins give us a gauge of how long the pool was utilized. A stone jug stopper and ceramic shards likewise help to affirm the date. The pool may have been utilized for custom washing, swimming, or giving new water to city occupants. A few group accept that Jews making their necessary journeys to Jerusalem would customarily lower themselves in the pool prior to going to the Jewish temple. As Jesus would have made those journeys, as well, it bodes well that he may have been nearby around then. 6. The house where Jesus grew up? Albeit a few group actually contend that Jesus never existed, most genuine researchers accept that the authentic Jesus was brought into the world around 4 BC and was raised in the Jewish confidence in Nazareth. Paleologist Ken Dark currently accepts he's tracked down a 1st-century Nazarene house where Jesus may have lived as a child. In the 1880s, nuns previously found this construction of mortar and stone incorporated into a slope. Ancient rarities found inside the home proposed to archaeologists that it was the home of a Jewish family. For instance, limestone pots would have been utilized by Jews since limestone was accepted to be especially unadulterated. Dim likewise created a 6th-century Scottish content portraying a journey to the Holy Land, remembering a stop at a congregation for Nazareth, where once there was the house wherein the Lord was fed in his infancy. Although the house was deserted during the primary century AD, Dark cases it was recognized as Jesus' home during the Byzantine time frame, when it was enlivened with mosaics. The Byzantines additionally fabricated the Congregation of the Nutrition over the home to secure it. The Crusaders fixed the design during the 1100s. This recommends to Dark that the Crusaders needed to ensure the place of Jesus, as well. All things being equal, the house was torched in the 13th century. Dark is making careful effort to take note of that he doesn't know whether the house really had a place with Jesus, just that the Byzantines accepted that it was. Nonetheless, he doesn't preclude it, as per his article in the Biblical Archaeology Review. Was this the house where Jesus grew up? It is difficult to say on archaeological grounds. Then again, there is nothing but bad archaeological motivation behind why such a distinguishing proof ought to be discounted. However, there are a few inquiries still to be replied. For a certain something, if the Byzantines and Crusaders knew about the house where Jesus was breastfed, it probably been a significant strict site to them. So for what reason is the solitary notice of it a dark Scottish letter? Furthermore, Professor Dark has an inclination for partner his finds with significant biblical destinations. In 2013, he proposed an old fishing local area he was unearthing may have been the town where Jesus pursued the marvel of the portions and the fishes, with his best proof being that the area hadn't otherwise been recognized at this point. This prompted allegations that he was driven by the need to find everything referenced in Holy Writ. 5. Ruler Solomon's Wall. In the first book of Kings, we're informed that King Solomon assembled a divider around Jerusalem. Around mid-2010, the recognized excavator Eilat Mazar reported the disclosure of such a divider, alongside other guarded designs, that appear to date to Solomon's time in the 10th century BC. The divider is around 70 meters, 230 feet, long and 6 meters, 20 feet, high. It's found where Jerusalem would have finished in that time frame, riding the city of David, presently the Arab neighborhood Silwan, and the Temple Mount. Mazar's group uncovered pieces of other protective designs around there, including a watchman tower, a gatehouse that got to the illustrious piece of the city, and a close-by regal building. Mazar accepts that lone King David or his child King Solomon might have constructed such a design around then. Dolls and shards of enormous earthenware containers found around the gatehouse date to the late 10th century BC, which would put them in Solomon's period. One of the capacity containers had an engraving that highlighted possession by a high-positioning Hebrew authority. There were additionally impacts on container handles that read, "To the King." This is the first occasion when that a construction from that time has been discovered that may connect with composed portrayals of Solomon's structure in Jerusalem, said Mazar in an official statement. The Bible discloses to us that Solomon worked, with the help of the Phoenicians, who were exceptional developers, the first temple and his new royal residence and encompassed them with a city, most likely associated with the more antiquated mass of the city of David. Fellow prehistorian Israel Finkelstein recognized it was conceivable that Solomon assembled the divider, yet revealed to National Geographic that there were chances in utilizing strict writings to authoritatively distinguish notable locales. There is the issue regarding when it was composed, 300 years after, or at the hour of the events. What are its objectives and its belief system? For what reason was it composed? For her part, Mazar excused these worries, contending that, "I don't accept there is a paleontologist who might exhume a site whereupon messages have been composed without being acquainted with those writings." 4. The power of the copper mines. In the Bible, King David fought the Edomites. Numerous researchers accept the scriptural clash was overstated in light of the fact that, they contend, Edom and antiquated Israel, or Judah, weren't sufficiently grown to collect huge armed forces to battle. They consider David to be clan leader, rather than a king. However, in 1997, archaeologists investigating the marshes of Edom, in what is currently southern Jordan, discovered proof of a more perplexing society that zeroed in on copper mining and military may. By focusing their endeavors on Kirbat and Nahas, which signifies vestiges of copper in Arabic, these archaeologists before long tracked down that Bible researchers had been zeroing in on some unacceptable piece of Edom, driving them to presume that the antiquated society there was a peaceful one. In the event that the researchers had taken a gander at the marshes, they would have discovered many copper mining locales, including slag piles like the one imagined above. Based on the age of the ceramics at these destinations, they were working most vigorously around the hour of King Solomon. Archaeologists additionally tracked down a huge Iron Age post there. Radiocarbon dating places the destinations in the 10th century BC, generally contemporary with the reigns of David and Solomon in the Bible. Albeit more work must be done, it's conceivable that critical copper creation, without a tactical reason however with an unpredictable society, happened as far back as the 12th century BC or even earlier. This loans confidence to Genesis chapter 36 verse 31, which alludes to lords in Edom before rulers controlled over Israel. The Bible additionally says that King Solomon was picked by God to assemble the main sanctuary in Jerusalem utilizing many huge loads of copper. Between the Edom mines and the copper locales at Slaves Hill and the Timnah Valley, all of which date to the 10th century BC, it's conceivable that Solomon may have controlled or approached sufficient copper creation to construct a temple. The Bible likewise discusses an Egyptian king Shishak, who attacked the region 5 years after Solomon passed on. Lately, an Egyptian special necklace recorded with the name of Pharaoh Shishak I, also known as Shishak, was found at a nearby copper site named Kirbat Hamra Iftin. Comparable ornaments without engravings were found at Kirbat and Nahas. Archaeologists accept this might be proof of Shishak I's tactical adventures upsetting the Edomite copper creation in the 10th century BC. 3. Nehemiahs Wall _824 px 108 Nehemiah _views the ruins of Jerusalem's walls. We've effectively discussed Solomon's divider around Jerusalem. Yet, the city and its kin have had such a turbulent history that its changing dividers frequently reflect their story, some of which is described in the Bible. In the 6th century BC, Babylon vanquished the kingdom of Judah and sent the Jews into banish, which proceeded until Persia crushed Babylon and permitted the Jews to get back to Jerusalem. Written in the primary individual, the book of Nehemiah recounts the narrative of how Nehemiah assembled the Jews to reconstruct the dividers and the entryways of Jerusalem in only 52 days. In 2007, Eilat Mazar uncovered that her group had found Nehemiah's 5-meter-wide, 16-feet, divider while exhuming what they accepted to be King David's royal residence in the antiquated city of David. At the point when a close-by stone pinnacle started to fall, the archaeologists attempted to fix it, however wound up on a 6-week burrow under the pinnacle, all things being equal. The burrow yielded stoneware, seals, and other antiques dating to the 6th and 5th hundreds of years BC. At the point when they didn't discover earthenware from a previous period, they presumed that the pinnacle was worked around a similar time as Nehemiah remade Jerusalem's divider. A portion of the names on the antiques are likewise found in the Bible. 2. The Spring Citadel Gihon. As a feature of a just about 20-year dive in the city of David, archaeologists declared in 2014 the revelation of the Spring Citadel, a monstrous 18th century BC post that got the Gihon spring from trespassers in antiquated times. Its dividers were 7 meters, 23 feet thick, just permitting admittance to the spring from inside the city. In request to secure the water source, they fabricated the pinnacle, Yet in addition a strengthened way that permitted the city occupants a protected admittance to the water source, prehistorian G. Uziel told Ynet News. This great construction was working until the finish of the Iron Age, and it was just when the first temple was obliterated that the fortification crumbled apart and quit being used. Archaeologists accept the Spring Citadel as the post that was vanquished by King David in 2 Samuel chapter 5 verses 6-7 and that secured the Gihon Spring where Solomon was blessed ruler of Israel in 1 Kings chapter 1 verses 32-34. 1. Goliaths Hometown think stock. Although no one has found a tremendous skull with a slingshot twisted in it, archaeologists figure they may have discovered Goliath's old neighborhood of Gath, a Philistine town among Ashkelon and Jerusalem which is referenced in 1 Samuel chapter 6 verse 17. During the exhuming of Gath, archaeologists revealed a 3,000-year-old horned stone raised area in astounding condition, like those depicted in the books of Kings and Exodus. In any case, the Philistine special stepped area has 2 horns while the scriptural raised areas have 4. The Philistines are scriptural scoundrels who lived around Gath during the 10th and 9th hundreds of years BC. The period of David and Solomon in the Bible. Parts of Philistine culture seem to have been depicted precisely in the Bible. For instance, archaeologists have tracked down a monstrous design with 2 columns, like the Philistine sanctuary of the Samson story. They've additionally found ceramic shards with recorded names that are like the Indo-European name Goliath. The neighborhood Israelites and Canaanites wouldn't have utilized such a name, however clearly the Philistines did. That's reliable with other discoveries, which uncovered that the Philistines kept pieces of their notable culture while accepting a portion of the nearby culture. For instance, the Philistines ate canines and pigs, creatures viewed as messy in Jewish culture. The Philistines additionally kept on revering their own divine beings. Albeit the removal has given proof of the vicious fights between the rulers of Jerusalem and the Philistines, archaeologists have additionally discovered signs of Gath's obliteration by an attacking armed force in the 10th century BC, like the account of the Aramean king Hazael's victory of Gath in the Book of Kings.